Welcome back. In the previous video, we went through some of the freeCodeCamp exercises, and one of those exercises involved the image tag. It's worth having a quick review of that tag before we move on. So if I pop in here, there we go, into the responsive web design, and here we go. So I'll just get rid of all the content that's here. And if we just remind ourselves of what a classic HTML element is composed of, it is made up of the opening tag, the closing tag, with the content in the middle. Here we go, and we can see it being rendered here. Now, if we try to do the exact same thing with the image tag, we would run into an issue. So if we said that is the opening tag, this is the closing tag, now we need to somehow type the content. And you can't exactly paste an image in here, so you would need to represent the image somehow, maybe using some kind of bytecode, who knows. But it's just not practical to do that. So the workaround for this is to start using attributes. So you just leave the image in its own file, and you can use an attribute to say where this image is located. And that attribute is the source. And in this case, we're using this URL, which is a location of the image. There we go. And then with HTML5, you are meant to use a self-closing image tag. So you are meant to just close the tag there and not have a separate image tag. And of course, we should also add the alt attribute. And the alt attribute is what displays if there is a problem rendering the image, or if somebody is visually impaired and they are using a screen reader. So here we can say alt, and we can say, if I remember correctly, this is some kind of relaxing cat. There we go. So if I put the wrong URL here, there we go, we can see it couldn't find that image, so then it used the alt text in place of that. Let's move on. I see it hasn't marked this as done, so we will just repeat it. And it's not a bad idea because it looks like there's a few sections here based on anchor tags. So here we go. This section again is on creating hyperlinks, and we do that by using the A tag. The A tag stands for anchor. There's historical reasons of why it's called that, but it's essentially a hyperlink. So the anchor tag has an attribute called href, and this is where we can provide a location that we want the user to go to when they click on the link. And then the contents of this tag is what the user actually sees. That typically gets highlighted in blue and has the underline. So the objective of this exercise is to create an anchor element that links to this location, freecatphotoapp.com. They want the text to be cat photos, as it's an anchor tag. Yeah, so I've just noticed that because we previously did this exercise, my solution is saved in here. And what we can do is just tweak this a little bit, just to experiment a bit with this anchor tag. So quite often on a website, you might see something like this. Click, and then here is what they would put inside of the contents of the anchor tag. So click here, click here for more. And then here we go, we can click on this little link here, and that would take us to this location. But what they want us to do in this exercise is just to have a link with the contents being cat photos. Let's run these tests. Bingo, we're done. Go to the next challenge. Link to an internal section of a page with anchor elements. So here we're going to be linking to another area of this long document. So anchor elements can be used to create internal links to jump to different sections within the web page. So we're not going to a different web page, we are just navigating within the single document. To create an internal link, you assign a link's href attribute to a hash symbol plus the value of the ID attribute for the element that you want to internally link to. You then need to add the same ID attribute to the element you are linking to. An ID is an attribute that uniquely describes an element. So an ID is literally just another attribute, as they show down here. You shouldn't have two elements of the same ID in a page. And here we have the anchor tag, which then references this element because the text here matches the ID that we have here. And you use the hash character here, which says that there's an ID with this value. Find that and navigate to that when the user clicks on this content. And that should jump down to wherever the H2 element is with the matching ID. So it says here, change your external link to an internal link by changing the href attribute to hash footer and the text from cat photos to jump to bottom. Remove the target blank attribute from the anchor tag since this causes the document to be opened in a new tab. So they have used this other attribute called target. So if I click on this one here, you can see there's an anchor tag with the target blank, and that means that when I click on cat photos, it'll open it in a new tab or a new window. There we go, we've jumped to a new tab. So they want us to get rid of that because the idea is when you click this, it should jump down. Maybe it'll be more obvious if I shrink this page a bit. So when you click that, they want the browser to jump down here and come to this footer section here. And if we look at that footer section, I was expecting it to have an ID of footer. So change your external link attribute to reference hash footer from remove the target blank. Okay, here we go. So then add an ID attribute to footer. So we can do that first. So they say we can change this ID, give it a ID attribute, and you can call this whatever you like, but they are calling it, they've asked us to call it footer. Whoop. And now the anchor tag must reference hash footer so that it identifies this element down here. So I come in here, we want to get rid of this attribute, the target one, so that we stay within the same page. And then the href, the location we want the user to go to, isn't this separate page, it's on our own page, and we need to use hash footer. That's Alt-3 on a Mac. Alt-3 to create the hash symbol. And they want the contents to be jump to bottom. Jump to bottom. I guess with the, well, my spelling was all over the place today. There we go. So now when I click on this, there we go. It has taken us down to the bottom of the page. Here we go. And if I make this even smaller, it will be even more obvious. Yeah, so jump right down to the footer of this page. Yeah. Okay, let's see if we did that correctly. Yep, all done. Next, anchor an element within a paragraph. You can nest links within other text elements. So here they're showing us that we can have plain text and then start an anchor tag. So basically put a link within a paragraph tag with, in this case, this one has the link to freeCodeCamp as the contents, and then the plain text will carry on again. So the challenge here is to nest the existing anchor element within the paragraph element. The new paragraph should have text that says, view more cat photos, where cat photos is a link, and the rest is plain text. Okie dokie, I get it. Okay, so they want a new paragraph tag, which I believe they want like this. A new paragraph tag, and I'll just give it the closing tag. And they would like this to say, view more cat photos. So that's what we have here. And they would like the cat photos bit to be a link. So I would essentially wrap this content with an A tag to make this part the link. So A, open tag, closing tag here, and it hasn't gone blue just yet because we haven't given it an href yet. So it's not quite an anchor element just yet, but we can say href equals, and we'll use the double quotes here because that's the convention we've been using so far. If you prefer single quotes, go ahead. Yeah, I was just looking where do we want this to go to, and this is the location we need to go to, I believe. Okay, and now we've got a blue link here, and if I just hold down Command or Shift, that'll open it in a new tab as well. And I could give this a target of blank to then make this go to a new tab by default. But let's check if we've done what we were asked to do. Okay, now they're saying make dead links using the hash symbol. Sometimes you want to add A elements to your website before you know where they will link. Okay, this is also handy when you are changing the behavior of a link using JavaScript, which we'll learn later. The current value of href attribute points to free cat photo app. Replace href with a hash, also known as the hash symbol, to create a dead link. Okay, interesting. So this click here to view cat photos, they're saying we should replace this with a hash symbol, apparently to make a dead link. So if I click on this now, interesting. Maybe if we get rid of the blank as well, that's probably how they would want it to behave, I imagine. So if I click here now, this will probably stay on the same page. Let's check this. Run all the tests. And they're happy with that. So this is the last one we'll do in this session. Turn an image into a link. That's kind of interesting. You can turn elements into links by nesting them within A elements. Nest your image tag within an A element. Here's an example. So they start off a anchor tag here, and then the body of that, instead of just being normal contents, they're using an image tag. So remember to use hash as your element's href property in order to turn it into a dead link. So they want this to be a link, but when we click on it, it shouldn't go anywhere. I guess, as they explained before, this is typically what you do. This is something you could do if you were building out a website and you haven't quite finished it off yet. You know you want a link, but you don't know where you want it to go just yet. So you do this little trick here. Okie dokie. So place the existing image element within an anchor tag. So the image element they're referring to is this thing here. And all I need to do is wrap this within an anchor tag. So typically with an anchor tag, what I would do is within an anchor element, I would say open the anchor tag, close the anchor tag, and here is where you would normally type the contents. Oh, let's give it so we can see the blue more easily, let's give it the href, give it this hash here, and then put the contents there. So that's this. but we don't want text to be the contents. We want the actual image to be the contents. So we want this to become a link. The mouse doesn't change, but if I hover over this link here, the mouse changes to a hand. So here it's the same, there is a hand. If I do make this image a link, when I hover over it, we should see the same behavior as this link here. So the way I'm going to do that is by taking this closing tag, cut it, and paste it after the image tag. So now we have a open anchor tag. The image element is a child of the anchor tag, and here is the closing anchor tag. And now when I hover over this image, we can see there the pointer changes to a hand, which means that this is now a link. It's a dead link, but if I did put a URL in there, such as this one here, or let's, why not? I can't think of a different. Let's just put this one in there. And I'm also going to give it the target of blank, underscore blank. And now when I click on the image, it will go to, the browser will open a new tab at this location. And it just so happens that this location is the same as the location I'm using for the source. So when I click on that image, we should go to a page which only has that image on it. There we go. So they wanted this to be a dead link. So we change this back to just a href and get rid of this target blank. And now nothing will happen, but it is a link. The browsers ignore this kind of white space, so we can use that to spread our code out to make it a bit more readable if we wanted to. In this case, I'd probably get rid of that, but I would keep the spaces here. Let's run these tests. Done. There we go. I see we've done 50% already. I think that's a good place to leave it for now. We'll continue this in a future video. I hope you can join me for that. Cheers for now.